Well, I want to say hello and welcome to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity. I know we've got wonderful listeners from around the world, so we want to say welcome to you as well. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson. I'm so glad you're here. We've got a fantastic show for you today. We're going to be talking about a very important topic that is very near and dear to my heart and is amazing. But I also have to introduce my amazing co host, Sheila Applegate. Good morning, Sheila. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing well.
It's another great show where we're talking about um, you know something that's in our world that we need to get empowered from. It's a little difficult. Where we're going to be talking about medical misdiagnoses and skin color. We'll also be connecting that to racial health inequities today. Really important topic. But we have a very special guest who is a dear friend of the show. She's been on before. She is the director of racial fairness for the Racial Fairness Project. And so I want to welcome to the show Sinead O'Brien. Good morning, Sinead.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so great to be here. Hello.
I love that energy. Oh, I love that energy. Um, wow. This before we get started, I want to remind our viewers that listen, you're part of this conversation. Just post directly to our live feeds on anyone. Actually, you can let us know from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Now we've expanded that, and we'll get your comment and we'll bring you into our show today. Um, wow. Earlier this week, I found out that actor and activist Jolie revealed how her children, including her daughter Sahara, were misdiagnosed due to their skin tone. This is from Yahoo News. In a powerful op-ed written by Jolie, who is 48 years old, and published in the American Journal of Nursing on Wednesday. She detailed new technology that allows for bruising to be seen on darker skin tones. And it's an amazing and necessary new tool for proper detection and care of these afflictions, which is also the top injury of victims of abuse. Now, Jolie went on to also state in this op ed, she said, let's be clear. Racial bias in forensic evidence collection is only one aspect of a much larger societal issue that leads to healthcare inequities and racially biased health outcomes. Many factors contribute to the unacceptable, disproportionate impact of domestic violence on communities of color in America, and all must be addressed. Um, I was blown away, y'all.
Yeah.
Blown away. Um, as I said to both of you offline, I mean, Angelina Jolie does not play. she she is very authentic. She comes across as authentic and knowledgeable every time you hear her talk about any of these kinds of things. And so the fact that again she not this in revealed something that's important to her, but not in a way that's more like, like it's activist, but it's more personal because it's her own kids that are affected by this, and she's connecting the dots and like, you know, this is important for people to understand and know, and that uh, she's bringing it forth, using her platform to bring it forth. So just want to ask both of you, I know you got a chance to read the op-ed as well as the article in Yahoo, what your reactions were, first of all. So I'll go to you, Sheila, first.
Well, so in my earlier career, I worked at a domestic violence shelter, and I had two different positions during that time. One was as a children's counselor, and the other was a court advocate. So I read this, and first of all, very excited about the new technology, but it was sort of broke my brain. Like, how was I not seeing it? What, like,
Yeah.
I never thought about that part of the aspect of it.
Yeah.
And, because in both of those positions, the visual evidence is really important, in the court for either child abuse or, spousal abuse. They're looking for visual evidence, photos and everything, and so it was just sort of this moment. Like, I know that the healthcare system is biased. It was like, whoa. I mean, it was in the 90s, but still, like, where did my
Right.
brain go? It kind of was like, "Oh, wow, that's so basic," and it was so overlooked, I guess.
Wow. Yeah. I think I I had some of those same feelings from a different perspective, but wow, yeah. Sine, what about you? What was your first reaction to this?
Well, I'm with Sheila. It really broke my brain too. I cannot believe, I mean, as a light-skinned white woman, I never looked at it that way. But you make a great point because Angelina Jolie has those children of many cultural, different colored skin. It gave her a lot of credibility to write
Yeah.
this, I think.
Yeah.
But I want to also say, in one of my past lives as an attorney, and representing, and it gave me a lot of joy to do this, representing people from various backgrounds and races. I did a lot of plaintiffs work, in and represented people from, I want to say, car crashes, right? And
Wow.
she mentions in the article about soft tissue injuries, and that is actually
Yeah.
one of the most
Yeah.
difficult things to prove. That really resonated with me, because if you can't show and demonstrate things like that I really thought about it. And especially, there's a lot of it's not just racism, but I was thinking about it. Racism's a very hard
Hmm.
thing, and people snap back. But you know what? Discrimination, even. So those are two
Yeah.
different things. You
Right.
don't have to
Right.
be a racist to discriminate, and it's
Right.
really rampant in the medical field. So I think that this is a really this. I know we didn't talk about it yet, but this new technology where you can bring up bruises on dark-skinned people it could be a game changer. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I look at it like, um, there's, again, we were talking about this offline, where there's so many layers to what she's talking about. And I think that was her point, that there's so many layers to this, where first there's just a layer of, listen,
yeah,
here's a person who needs healthcare, right? And that they need to be diagnosed properly, and they need to be treated properly, right? So if you have technology, or there's bias, or there's racism in just that process, that person cannot get the healthcare that they need, the proper health care that they need, right? So that they can get through whatever that affliction is, become healthy, and then move on with their life. So that's just one level, right? Then you
Mhm.
add the other piece of,
yeah.
well, the misdiagnoses that happen more frequently with people of color. How does that affect them in terms of their own personal life? How does that affect us as a society? And then you add the other layer, that this specific diagnosis is part of the domestic abuse cases, part of, like you were saying, Sinead, with like accident cases. It goes across this gambit, and it's like my mind was like blown again, like yours, like the two of you, where it's like, wow, I've never, you just something that you just don't think about, right? That skin color and diagnoses, and
Yeah.
that they're connected like that,
And
like,
there's
Right.
other things that are diagnosed that need to see the bruises too, like that the bruises play a vital role in.
right.
I'm thinking back, I nearly died because of ITP years ago.
Wow.
And the bruises, the marks on the skin is one of the ways they knew that, I was bleeding internally. So that's got to affect a
Oh.
lot of different people.
Wow. Just to give people, a little bit more meat on the bones around um like just this specific technology, right? And what it means. This new technique is up to 5 times more effective at detecting bruising than white light, as much as 4 weeks after injury, right?
Mhm.
So people with darker skin, when they're under white light, doctors and first responders may not be able to see the severity of the bruising, which, to your point, Sheila, um, uh, at its worst, could be about internal bleeding, which would
Right,
kill you, right?
right. Yep.
And at its least is more about, you know um which is still serious, a traumatic injury to the skin, a
Mhm.
domestic abuse case, that all that soft tissue, and later on, if it's not treated properly, could lead to permanent scarring of the skin and permanent bruising of the skin, right?
I don't think it should be understated that Black people are also in this country treated differently,
Yeah.
in the sense,
Well,
well, in the medical field, in the sense that there is still a there's a bias
yeah.
in the way there's a bias in the way that people in the medical field, and this is an outrage, they still think that this crazy idea that Black people have a higher pain tolerance. And
Right.
there was a 2016 study done at the University of Virginia with medical students and residents,
Right.
and which I mean, this, talk about breaking my brain, that they really did think these people who got all the way into medical school and passed it, they were residents, and they thought, yes, I think Black people do have a higher pain tolerance. And now that leads to incredible problems and fallout because they.
Uh-oh. Did we lose
Oh,
Sinead?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Should we go for a
Oh,
break?
Yeah. Oh no, you're back. You're back. You're back. Um,
oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, no,
Oh,
no, no problem. No problem. Hey, listen, this is a
oh,
live stream show, everybody. So
oh, I
stuff
know.
happens.
And
Listen. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Sinead.
oh, I'm just saying, and I'm way up. I'm way up in the mountains, so it's a constant problem.
No problem at all. Listen, everybody, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this, right? Because we need to talk and put some context around, like, what do we mean by, like, racial healthcare disparities and also just inequities that exist within our healthcare system generally. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back with more of This Morning with Soulivity in about 60 seconds.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. I'm Brian Wesley Johnson, joined by my amazing co-host Sheila Applegate, and our very special guest today, Sinead O'Brien, a director of the Racial Fairness Project. We are talking about medical misdiagnoses and skin tones and healthcare inequities today. Wow. Let's make, this all came about from a op-ed written by Angelina Jolie about her daughter who was misdiagnosed and then was also part of getting proper care using new technology to help her bruising from an injury. Um, but we want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this and talk about like some important history around this. And Sheila, you had some information from the American Bar Association on this. Can you share a little
Yeah.
bit of that?
Yeah, I just put the link so you can share it with the others. But I read this article, and it's about a implicit bias that the American Bar Association studied. And basically, there's several different tests. They go through much of it, but the conclusion is that the idea of the testing is that the practitioner's bias plays a huge impact on this disparity in health that is provided to people in the United States. Because if we're implicitly biased, which we are from systemic racism, then it's going to carry over into the people who are exposed to that and then become doctors, like Sinead was saying. So the research appears to show that these anti-Black, pro-white implicit biases are as prevalent among providers as they are among the general population. And they concluded that the physician's implicit racial bias can account for the inferior healthcare that the studies discussed above.
Whew.
So, yeah, so we talk so often about the systemic bias, and I think that, or racism and the biases we have, I think that is, we can find it in every area, right? Like, and I think that's why we all have to admit that. Like, I was shocked when we read this, and that's partly because I'm even immune. Of course I'm immune to the biases that are already in me or have been in me, because there's so much to notice or not notice.
Exactly. I mean, Sheila and Sinead, it's like you think healthcare is healthcare, right? The doctors who take a Hippocratic oath to do no harm and to treat you and that kind of thing are going to see just the body as the body, right? This human form as the human form, and that they're going to treat it equally and respectfully. But we know that historically and through research that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can also tell you.
No, go ahead, Sinead. Yeah, please.
No, I was going to say I also in my legal practice I did some medical malpractice, and I'm always hesitant to say that because it's like a dirty term, but I can tell you. No, I know. No, but because, and listen, this is important. Nobody likes to hear that because doctors are so vaulted in our society because we think they are second only to God. That's right. Because we just everything about them, because they are the ones who heal us and keep us safe, because we presume that they are infallible in every way. So I'm going to say this: it is almost impossible to win a medical malpractice case. You cannot, when you have a jury of people in a courtroom, you can, I mean, unless it is completely the most egregious thing, they always say, like leaving a pair of scissors in a body. It's really difficult to convince a jury that a doctor has done wrong. So imagine, and like you were saying, Sheila, with these implicit biases, to convince people that they've done wrong against people of color, because we have these biases. And I just want to emphasize again, it's a far cry from racism to implicit biases, because you can be most well-intentioned
Right.
person, but these things are ingrained in us, like it or not.
Wow. Yeah. I just put some more information in our chat today so people can go out and read and learn up about this. We talked about, first, about pain, right? Pain is a very, very
Mm.
important diagnosis that needs to happen so that people can get relief. We talked about the 20 years of studies confirmed that patients of color were far less likely to receive any pain medication, and the situation was significantly worse for Black patients, right? But then you go into other
Right.
studies, like a 2019 Pew report on race in America, where the majority of people of color, 76% of Blacks, 70% of Asians, 58% of Hispanics, say that they have experienced discrimination or have been treated unfairly because of their race or ethnicity, right? And that in the same report, 59% of Blacks and 26% of whites agree Blacks are treated less fairly than whites when seeking medical treatment. So this is not like, we're not saying that, hey, this is just something that we're making up, and that it's just a perception. The facts bore out that this is actually happening, and that our healthcare industry is a reflection of our society, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's got to be, because like we're saying, people don't leave their biases at
Right.
the door, no matter
Right.
how
Right.
intelligent, no matter what. So doctors, they simply can't. I mean, you have your smarts and your intelligence, but your emotional intelligence and your book intelligence are two different
Wow.
things.
Wow. 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 you know Again, I'm going to be putting a lot of this info. There's a ton of information we're going to be sharing with you today around, like, the history of inequities. There is a paper that was co-authored by Dr. Wyatt, who is, I'm looking up their credentials right now because I know I just saw it. Ronald Wyatt, who's an internationally known patient safety expert and health equity champion. There's a paper that he co-authored around Black and white differences in mortality have been estimated to account for the premature deaths of 260 African Americans every day. I want to repeat that.
Oh,
Wow.
That Black white differences in mortality have been estimated to account for the premature deaths of 260 African Americans every day, and that those deaths are due to both diagnostic and treatment errors. So this is real.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta say, I don't know if that specifically accounts for, or is generalized, but accounts for Black maternal I mean, that the Black maternal rate of death and mortality for the infants and the mothers is,
Yeah.
that is, talk about an outrage in this
Mm-hmm.
country.
Oh my
It
God.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't even say it without my lose my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
It's third world country rates.
Right.
Right.
Right. And again, we're talking about this today, everyone, because these are things that are important for all of us to know. We're going to shift to, how does this or doesn't this not affect us as a people here in America? But it's also about us empowering each other with information that you may not get anywhere else but here. Um, because again, I think a lot of times we think, oh, healthcare is just healthcare, and that these highly trained professionals, our doctors, our specialists, all those folks are going to just treat everybody fairly, and that's just not true. That's just not what's happening. Even though some of them may have the best intentions. So listen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about how this may be affecting our society as a whole here on This Morning with Soulivity. We'll be right back in about 45 seconds.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Yes, and guess what that day is? It's today. You can catch Consciously Awesome Living at 12 noon, where Sheila's going to be talking about our emotions and talking about this show today. You may need to go over
I
there
know,
and,
right?
and hang out with that. We're talking about medical misdiagnoses and skin color and healthcare inequities today. Again, this was in framing. There's a great op-ed that we put in our chat from Angelina Joie. I highly recommend that you go read it. That started this conversation today. Just kind of talked about the history. Let's talk about something that I think that people may not realize, and that's there is a collective nature of racial healthcare inequities. And what I mean by that is, though you may think that you're not afflicted by it directly because you may not be a person of color, but guess what? You are. And we have information and that we're going to be sharing with you about that. What say you, Sinead? I'll go to you first. What's your information or thoughts about this?
Well, I definitely think that, well, it's no question that it affects us all. And I think it's a broad problem. I was thinking when we were talking about it, when you were saying about, it struck me about, because we are far apart. I'm in Massachusetts, you're in DC.
Yeah.
Most importantly, like, we don't all have the same access to healthcare.
Right.
Like, healthcare in Massachusetts is phenomenal, and I know that I take it for granted very often. My sister's in Texas. No, she's in Florida. She was in Texas. Now she's in Florida. Two states that they don't have great healthcare. And I think about people of color down there all the time, and that is, I mean, it's a miasma of terribleness, and I can only imagine how awful it must be for people of color. But really importantly, to think about this, it's not just misdiagnoses. It's the racism, of course, but it's also the classism.
Right.
This is something to consider. It's your legal status very often. You're not really, you might be unwilling to seek care or go for care. If we go back to the domestic violence issues, very, very often Black women and men, but Black people do not report because they are criminalized by the system. Right. So there's just, and even because hospitals are required to report, it's not just calling 911, it's even going in to the hospital, and they're going to have to, it's a vicious cycle. Right. Also, they don't know if the people that are treating them, they don't look like them, they don't speak like them, they don't have the same, everything about people of color going to seek help, to seek care, to seek comfort is foreign and potentially off-putting. Right. And I don't know how to solve that, obviously, but it's a problem.
Well, I'm going to go to you, Sheila, for your thoughts in a second. Just want to kind of push this one statistic out here about inequities. And this was in a more recent analysis found inequities in the U.S. healthcare system cost approximately $320 billion, that's with a B, annually, and could reach $1 trillion in spending by 2014 if left unaddressed. The economic burden of mental health inequities, this is just mental health inequities alone, was estimated to be $270 billion between 2016 and 2014. So when we talk about, like, just from a cost standpoint, right, in terms of the collective nature, this is costing everybody money. Just talking economics. We're not even talking about, social, like justice and everybody being, looking at each other a certain way and that kind of thing. No, this is just money.
Right.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know who's not? It's not costing health insurance. They're making money.
Right.
It's costing taxpayers
Exactly.
money. So
Exactly.
that's a whole different show.
Sheila, what are you thinking about all this right now?
Well, I'm pretty sure that capitalism and lack of universal health care is our most important problems in the
Right.
US to solve these things. But, talking about that inequity and the intensity that places on all of us, we can see because the government runs in a capitalistic nature, when you say those numbers out loud, we have to be aware that it is not an economical choice that they're making to keep this disparity. And therefore, it is a bias. It is keep the women down, keep the people of color down, keep the people who are poor. It is a systemic desire to keep things and people in their place.
And it's funny, the people who are supporting, like I'll give a for instance that's directly connected to this, and I don't even think that a lot of people are thinking about it, because the news cycle is like, whatever is next to the breaking news. People that are out here are supporting the ending of affirmative action in higher education, right? And it just was struck down by the Supreme Court last week or the week before. Now, why am I mentioning that? Well, guess what? If you're not having diversity in our institutions of higher learning, then how do you create the solutions to problems like what Angelina Jolie and her daughter were experiencing, right? This is new technology that came about, but my guess is that technology is directly connected to probably a doctor of color or a scientist of color or somebody who noticed, because they had an experience with a person of color, that, wait a minute, we can't put white light on these on this skin to see what the bruises are, because people have different skin tones. Wow, I never thought about it that way. Well, that's a benefit of affirmative action, where you're creating a more diverse community of educated people. But more importantly, because of the history of racism and slavery in our country, we need to remediate the fact that there aren't enough Black doctors, Hispanic doctors, Asian doctors, right? And that can, who can come forth and say, wait a minute, no, you can't treat that person this way using that treatment because they have darker skin, or there's a history of health within their family where maybe diet or something like that plays a role that other doctors are not aware of, right? So all this comes forth because of that. So there's a connection.
Brian, that is, bravo. Everything that you just said, let me tell you, everybody's saying, oh, we just want the brightest minds. And that's, there's so much racism brought into that. I can't even. No, we need, don't even. But yes, the striking down of affirmative action, again, that's another show that you all just did. But I just want to go back. It was mentioned, one of the most striking things in Angelina Jolie's article was, and this was just it was a moment when
Mhm.
she was in the when she was with her daughter who had just had a procedure.
Right.
Her daughter Zahara, who is a
Right.
dark-skinned African American,
Mhm.
and the nurse said to her, or doctor, I'm not quite sure, said, "All right, okay, you're fine." And she was leaving. She said, "Now you just call us if you see pink near the incisions." And she said she just was struck and looked at her and was like, "You don't even understand the implications of what you just said,
Right.
obviously." And I thought, you know what, I was struck, and I thought, you know what, that's a Crayola moment.
Right.
Because
Right.
remember for how long was peach colored or called skin tone,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Right? I was like,
Exactly.
that's a Crayola moment.
Right.
And I thought to myself, oh my, because, and that I guaranteed, and she was very generous in her response. And she said, I'm quite sure she had the best intentions. But again, I guarantee that's an implicit bias. You just think pink. So,
Well, and
sorry.
and no, and that's a really good point because of the fact that this is what doctors are taught, right? This is what's in the in our
In the
medical in
books.
our books. There's no people. I don't remember in my biology classes, both in high school and college, where you see a black body in those
Mm.
books,
Right.
right? You
So,
Right.
all, yeah,
Brian, what what should she have said? What color or how would she have known there was an infection? I know it's going to vary on the
yeah,
level of this or the skin tone, but I'm just totally curious because that struck me as well too. And yeah, so what would, because maybe there's other people out there that would overlook it because we were never taught
yeah.
it. What
Well,
would
listen,
we
I
be
would say
looking for?
I'll say first of all, as somebody, I know more than I ever wanted to know about any kind of medical stuff. Just having,
The
but
ickiness.
right. I'm trying to do some kind of brainwash of it. But she should have said, not should have. Oh my heavens, please, can we erase this from the lives? Discoloration and
Discoloration.
discoloration of what the normal skin looks like. Discoloration would have been, and of
Okay.
course any
Yeah.
kind of like any kind of oozing or smell. Of course that would
Right,
lead to infection. But
So,
discoloration
and maybe
would
darker
have,
if they're
yeah,
looking.
it could be dark.
and that
Yeah,
would
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's it. And then so we don't um um I've even seen this in medical offices where they're talking about where it might be a diagram of bruising and it goes from one level of bruising to another, but it's all based upon white skin.
Right.
Of
And
course.
so, you know, really quickly, I want to make a turn here because again, as we talk about all of this, I want to try to empower people around like how do we get past this, right? What are some of the steps that you as a listener and all of us collectively can be a part of to ending. I mean, we're talking specifically about racial healthcare inequities, but this is just healthcare inequities in general, right? We just talked about the fact that, you know, having more, using tools where you're getting more people of color in the healthcare system, specifically as professionals, right? Doctors, nurses, specialists, those folks who can bring into the educational system, but also like in the practice of healthcare, a different perspective, right? Or those necessary
Mhm.
perspectives to change. I mean, so we talked about that. Um, in this article where we're talking about why your color, your skincare can, change up what kind of healthcare you get. One important one, I think, Sinead, you were just talking about this. Teach cultural humility. Ooh.
Mm.
Ooh. It says cultural humility is a better option. It's when doctors listen without unnecessary interruption and let patients' goals and concerns guide their response.
That is just like revolutionary.
What a concept of actually allowing doctors to be to first of all acknowledge that they're human, right? So we're not beating up on them, especially when doctors are taught a certain way, right?
Mhm.
But saying, listen, you need to hear me. You need to hear your patients talk to you and give you information that probably would be vital in terms of how you're treating them.
Doctors every year they have to take a certain number of classes or whatever, those CLEs, continuing learning,
Right.
whatever. I know lawyers do. Maybe every year they should have to take like a credit of,
Uh,
cultural sensitivity or DEI,
yeah. 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 Which is another thing, right? I mean, we have to support diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, right? Because we also have people who have injuries that where maybe they're in a wheelchair or whatever. That all that's important, and that there's a concerted effort right now in our political realm where they're trying to stop that. They're saying, "Oh, well, that doesn't
Oh,
matter." If when you stop that, it affects this. And so we're all connected. Again, that's one of the reasons why I want to do the show today. We're all connected.
Mhm.
We can't get away from that. And that you eliminate affirmative action, that in turn creates more inequity in our healthcare system. And that's just one piece. It affects all our different areas of expertise in professional life. May it be the legal system, may it be our education system. It is all connected, right? Here's another one. Demand evidence-based medicine. So they say um, there was a study in which disparity of care disappeared when high functioning hospital rates of compliance to evidence-based care rose from 80% to 95%. Those who were only able to improve to an 80% level of competence still had disparity of outcomes. Racism is intransigent. So yeah,
wow.
I mean, so prove it, right? Have this compliance, have this high level of compliance within our healthcare system at hospitals and other things that are basically saying, you know, just don't like throw out a diagnosis like, well, because it's just something that is common. No, you gotta. What is the person's race? What's their skin tone? What is their family history? I mean, all these different things, and start there and listen to your patients.
Mhm.
I think that also goes back. I mean, not to swivel too
No, no, no.
much, but
Mm-mm.
no, but to go back to the domestic
Yeah,
violence and
yeah,
the race and cultural issues surrounding
yeah,
that. There's kind of a shroud around why so many women of Black and brown women and Black, brown, Asian do not report for so many reasons. They're not going to be heard or understood. We know this because culture, religion, that's a huge thing.
hmm
In so many Black and Latino cultures, they don't so much rely on therapy and community so much. They go to church to sort out their problems. There are a lot of strong family ties, and there's a lot of pressure to keep what happens at home at home. So they're gonna fight through any kind of like even broken bones. They're not going to take it again to the hospital, but also because these doctors, who again don't always look like them, don't understand them, so I think again, like you said, this cultural humility, more understanding, more feeling that they're going to go and have a welcoming, sensitive, also not hostile, not a feeling that they're going to be turned over to, I hate to say this, criminalized. And I mean, it's just put into a system. Oh, social services, that is a huge problem for women, especially Black women, of domestic abuse. So I'm sorry, it's a vicious cycle. So everything about this the medical, it's all tied together. But if we can get our current medical, and I mean, this starts from administration through nurses, through doctors. If they can all get a little more cultural humility and understanding, and it's not just feed them in, get them out, and people will feel more comfortable getting the help that they need and be more understood.
Oh man, hear, hear. Hear, hear. We're going to be talking more about this. I mean, I think this is something that we need to be talking about. I think, again, it's something that it does not come up in a lot. Just to kind of put a cap on this, and then we'll go to some shameless plugs really quickly. There was a study done by Deloitte, so this is not the bastion of liberalism or anything like that, that have been talked about. And Pierre Theodore, who's a doctor, is an MD, who's the vice president of health disparities at Johnson & Johnson Global Public Health. He says the underlying problem of healthcare spending is health inequities. He said when you address inequities for one population, you raise health for all populations.
Wow.
That comes from the kicking down. As long as we think somebody is worse off than us, we're willing to stay with it because at least we're not at the bottom.
Absolutely. And it's not working. So if you're complaining about how much your prescription drugs are, if you're complaining about, how much your premiums are for health insurance and what you're paying to go to see the doctor, or even other things that are ancillary like childcare, right? All these things are interconnected, and that when you eliminate these inequities, the cost of all those things goes down. So be greedy, stop racism, support to stop racism.
I like that.
and disparities, all that kind of stuff. Just be greedy. Just do it for the money. If you're not in it for the other,
stop racism, do it for the money. We
do
got
it for
a T-shirt.
So anyway, while we move to some shameless plugs, while we have a couple of minutes left, Sinead, you're doing a lot of different things with the Racial Fairness Project. Can you tell us a little something that you're doing now that people can support you with there?
Well, as always, we are asking for money that we can distribute in Berkshire County.
I love it.
We can distribute in Berkshire County. But I will tell you, today we are going to the volunteer fair because we need people all the time. And everyone in Berkshire County is, everyone. We have one of the most generous communities of volunteers in the area. But I do have a shameless plug very quickly. Berkshire Medical Center has a marvelous DEI representative. It is Nurse Charles Redd, and we are really, really forward in him. Everything kind of that we spoke about today he is remarkable in that he's a champion for patients, and he's not one of the he's not a DEI rep in that he works with staff as much. Those are pretty standard, but he is a representative for patients, and I just want to give a shout out to him and Berkshire Medical Center.
Oh, thank you for that. That's wonderful. Perfect. Sheila, you've got these soul
thank
connection.
you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Sheila, you've got these soul connection sessions going
I do.
on.
Yes, if you would like to have an individual session with me to help make a deeper connection to your soul, communicate with loved ones on the other side, or see what obstacles you want to overcome in order to create the life you desire, you can do that at SheilaApplegate.com. And if you use the code SOUL23 as a Soulivity This Morning listener, you'll get $44 off your first session.
Woohoo! Love it, love it, love it. Also want to let everybody know that the new Soulivity.com is here. Go to Soulivity.com and check out our beautiful reimagined platform that is here to give you even more inspiration for your passion, your purpose, and living your best life today. Sinead O'Brien, thank you for being here. Appreciate you so much.
This has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, you guys are so wonderful.
Oh, man. And we're going to have you back, of course, because we got more to talk about with you. Listen, everybody, please follow us on social media. And remember to join our mailing list by visiting the This Morning Soulivity site today. On behalf of all of us, I want to say thank you for joining us for another amazing episode here of This Morning with Soulivity. This is how we do it. We do it like this every single weekday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Time for our live broadcast, or you can listen to us Thursdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. Wow. This always goes too quickly, y'all. It always goes too quickly. Man,
Let's
but
do it again tomorrow, Brian.
do it again tomorrow. I think that's a good idea.
All right.
Listen, until next time, everyone, keep having real conversations with passion and purpose, and keep on creating a life full of high quality living today. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.